Hey, what's up you guys? My name is William Beaudry and welcome back to my channel. Today we are finally going to be reviewing The Strangers Chapter 1. Now, this movie was directed by Renny Harlin, who, if you don't know him, I'm pretty sure he did Die Hard 2, and I know for a fact he did Nightmare on Elm Street 4, which is one of my favorites in the franchise. I don't really think I know any other movies of his besides those two, but I have been seeing this movie get so much hate online and people calling it trash garbage and a waste of time. Why did they even make this? And I'm not fully in that camp. I'm not entirely sold that the movie is pointless, and I'll get into my reasons why for that, but I do agree that this movie was not great. I had a bit more fun with it, I think, in the theaters than I've noticed some other people were having. I completely 100% get every single criticism that this movie is getting. I think the only reason that I enjoyed it a little bit more than everyone else, and I'll just say this now to get it out of the way so that you guys can kind of understand the context of how I went into this movie. I went into this movie expecting it, well, for one, I thought it was going to be a prequel, and then as soon as I saw cell phones, I realized, oh, this is not a prequel. There's no way this can be a prequel. And then I immediately went, okay, so this must be a new timeline. These are different, new strangers. These are not the same strangers from the original two movies. At least, I hope not. I really hope not. If things go the way they are kind of hinted at going in the next two movies, which we'll again get into. Once I kind of realized that, I enjoyed the movie a lot more because I was no longer worried that they were going to fuck up the motives of the strangers in at least the original movie. I mean, part two kind of is the same motive, so those movies work well for me. So I'm glad that this movie didn't already start trying to explain that stuff, although that's what the trailers led people to believe, and I think that that's what people were expecting. I went into this movie knowing we're getting two more movies after this. I looked at this movie as Act 1, so for me, the fact that nothing really happens, the fact that it's just kind of a beat-for-beat remake of the original was fine. I get it. They wanted a jumping-off point, and I think smartly they didn't connect it to that original movie, simply because I think they knew people might get pissed off if we explain the motives of the strangers. So if we redo it, establish that this is new, different, then we can do whatever we want. We can make them supernatural, or we can, you know, make them a part of some weird cult, which is where I think we're heading. But, yeah, so once I realized, like, okay, I have nothing to worry about those original movies getting ruined, I was able to have fun. And that's all this movie really has to offer, is fun. There is not a lot of intensity in this movie. The basic setup for this movie is a couple who are, I'm pretty sure, celebrating their 5-year anniversary, or maybe not an anniversary, they've just been together for 5 years. They're going on a cross-country road trip, and they end up in this little town. You know, their car breaks down. I'm pretty sure some of the townspeople messed with it. There's just a lot of weird townspeople. If I ever went to a small little Hicksville town like this and rode in and immediately everybody is giving me dirty looks, every single person has something snarky to say, I'm not getting out of my car. I'm getting in my car and I'm leaving. I'm getting out of there as fast as I can. So that was stupid character decision number one, which is my main problem with this movie. As much fun as I was trying to have with this movie, I kept getting pissed off at the stupid decisions that character made, and it literally kicks off from the very beginning. These people decide to stay in this town where it's already kind of, there's already like a target on their back for some reason. Their car breaks down. The girlfriend, she thinks that it's some sort of setup, rightly so. The boyfriend, he's oblivious to everything throughout the entire movie. He constantly questions his girlfriend. I'm pretty sure her name was Maya the entire time. I don't even remember his name. Or I think it was Ryan, because that's my boss's name. he questions his girlfriend the entire time, and he's basically the reason that they end up at this Airbnb, because he doesn't take her seriously at all, or any of her concerns the entire time. Ryan is my least favorite character in the entire franchise so far. I thought his acting was weak. Whoever that actor is, his acting was poor. He could not convey any sort of emotion whatsoever at all to make there be even a level of intensity or fear or heightened reality. He just, every scene he was in kind of ruined it. So I'm glad, spoiler alert, they killed his ass off at the very end. Thank God we didn't need him. But I do think that if you just go into this movie, turn your brain off, don't think about the first two, it's okay. It's okay. It's a pretty standard okay slasher. There were some fun sequences. I think my favorite sequence was probably the sequence under the house in the crawl space. That was probably the most tense scene for me in the entire movie, besides when Maya is hiding in like that little ditch and all the bushes and leaves and sticks and stuff. Those two scenes were pretty cool. I liked most of the stuff that they did out in the woods. I'm just kind of rambling here. I don't really have a set, thought process on how I really feel about this movie. I just saw it last night. But yeah, right from the jump, they're making super, super, super dumb decisions. So I just found myself unable to really root for these characters a lot of the time. I didn't really mind if they lived or died. I'm really hoping that by chapters 2 and 3, which are the ones that I'm really looking forward to, because we don't have to retread all of the ground from the original in a way that it's so weird, because Renny Harlin somehow sucked all of the suspense and tension and dread out of this movie, which is basically the same premise as the original. And I really think that it has to come down to those two main characters. In the original movie, I know a lot of people say that they're constantly making dumb decisions. Me personally, I don't feel like they're too dumb of decisions. What I feel like is going on there is it's adrenaline, they're scared, they're nervous, they don't know what they're doing. This guy doesn't know how to use a gun. They're in the middle of nowhere. They haven't been here in years. There was just a failed marriage proposal, so they're, rocky. And from the second the movie starts, even with that opening little title narration part, the music is dreadful, and it just keeps getting worse the entire time. This movie, the couple starts off in love, so there's already no tension there. The tension comes from these weird ass townspeople, which is just so weird to me, because just why are we doing this? This almost feels so stereotypical. This feels like something plucked right out of an 80s slasher movie, which would maybe have fit more in Prey at Night, which would have probably made me dislike that movie a bit. But this movie was just weird, man, in terms of, like, the only reason I can think of why they're focusing so much on the townspeople in this movie and the pamphlets that are getting passed out is I really, really, really do feel like they're gonna go in some sort of cult direction where everyone in the town is in on it. Every single one of the townspeople is a stranger. And the twist of the 3 movies is that Madeline Pesh has been the stranger the entire time. Not like she's one of the people behind the mask, but I mean, like, the townspeople all know who the strangers are, but they don't know who she is. So she's the stranger, and they're going after her, or something. But let me get back on track. In this movie, it never really reaches the full intensity of the level of the original one, and I really think that it has to do with there's no conflict between our main characters like there is in the original or even in the sequel. The townspeople are weird, so it already feels way more like a movie than it would real life. The reason part 1 works, and especially part 1, but also part 2, the reason why they both work is they feel real enough. Part 1 feels ultra real. Part 2 feels real enough. I could believe that stuff happening, or being at a trailer park and just stuff going wrong. Whereas in this one, it's just like so many plot conveniences happen one after the other that I just can't forgive them. Oh, our car, we just went into this restaurant where people were rude. Oh, now our car randomly stopped working. Oh, now this guy can't fix our car for some random reason, and he has to wait till tomorrow. Oh, the hotel is closed. We have to go to this Airbnb where we're gonna stay. Oh, now we're getting attacked. It's like the movies are definitely setting up the fact that these townspeople are in on it, and I just don't know how I feel about that. I really don't know how I feel about that, especially when you know that Richard Brake is in the background of the movie in the diner scene. They're not just gonna put Richard Brake back there and not have him be somewhat of a main character in the next two, if not the masked stranger. I wouldn't be surprised if he is the guy under the mask. He plays crazy well, and I mean, I wouldn't be mad seeing Richard Brake go forward as the man in the mask, but I also don't really want to know who's under that mask. I really don't. I have no desire to know the background, motivations, history, the story of any three of the strangers. I'm perfectly fine with having no clue anything about them. They're not the reason the movies should be scary. I mean, they are, but they're not. It's more what they impose on people that's scary, not necessarily them. It's what you don't know that they're going to do, which makes them scary. Which I guess is another knock for this movie, is maybe by part 3 we already know what these people are going to do, so that already makes it less scary. And then, yeah, just add on to the fact that these main characters are making such stupid decisions. Like when the guy randomly goes and leaves to go get food or check the car or whatever, Maya, she starts, experiencing, knocks on the door and people talking to her. She sees the pinup girl, I'm pretty sure, in the house. 15 seconds later, after she lays eyes on this chick in her house, her husband comes, or her boyfriend comes back in. And the scene's done, and he immediately is like, oh, have you been drinking? Oh, have you been smoking? Oh, well then you probably didn't see anything. You probably saw nothing. I'm sorry. Have you ever smoked pot in your life before? Have you ever fucking hit a J? Have you ever smoked before in your life? Dude, I'm sorry, but someone who smokes, I'm assuming as often as she probably does, considering she does it throughout the movie, she's not hallucinating, dude. You don't hallucinate. What is this, the 80s? What is it, like reefer madness? Like, when I watch 80s movies, I laugh at how weed is depicted and how, oh man, it's crazy. Why is this movie depending on tropes from the 80s? From the 80s, my guy. I mean, I know Rennie Harlan made some movies in the 80s, but it's been 40 fucking years since the 80s, man. These tropes are old, done with, dead, ran over, done to death. We shouldn't be doing them, and this movie is filled with trope after trope after trope after trope. And honestly, the longer I'm talking about this movie, the more I'm starting to dislike it, even though I did have a kind of fun theater experience, but also I was a little tipsy in there, so I mean, maybe that had something to do with it. It's just, throughout the entire movie, he constantly undermined Maya. He constantly questioned what she was doing, why she was doing, and then when shit finally started to hit the fan, he was so unbelievable as an actor that I can't buy into him as a character, which just made me fucking hate him. It just made me hate him, especially when that scene where he's eating the burger and it's dripping everywhere. It's like, who eats like that, for one? And then that whole setup to the scene with the chicken bleeding above them, like, why wasn't that chicken bleeding the entire time? I love how the movie waited for him to be eating a burger and ketchup dripping out of his burger to finally have the chicken with its throat slashed above them finally start to bleed onto the table. That was really weird. And what? Because she's vegan or vegetarian or whatever? Wow. Wow, you saw a dead chicken as a vegan or vegetarian. Holy shit, it's not like you aren't on a road trip where you're probably gonna pass some dead animals on the side of the road as you're driving. It's not like she's probably never seen a fucking dead animal before in her life. There's just stupid things like that where I'm like, why? Yes, that would be scary. That would be intimidating to see put into your house. But just the way it's built up and the setup of it, it just made me hate one of our main characters. It made me question the logistics and reality of the world we're in, because why did that chicken take so long to bleed? There were a lot of weird decisions made in this movie, and I would give this movie the most positive thing I can say about this movie is the one not weird decision about this movie is the strangers themselves. They're still cool. Their masks are still cool. Honestly, I prefer the updated version in this movie of the masked guy's mask. I thought it looked way cooler, darker, sicker. It was awesome. Not entirely sure how I feel about the new outfits, costumes with the hats on. I think that might just be a way to differentiate from those original 3 strangers. These are a different group of strangers, which to me, that's fine. Although I do prefer them without the hats on and without those big jackets. I like it when they were just in regular, normal people clothes because it just exemplified the fact that these are regular, normal people. That this is just something that they do for kicks. That they look like they're going out to go watch a movie, and instead, you're the movie that they're watching. You are the horror movie that they're watching. They're creating it. So in this one, they're dressed like they're home invaders, which, you know, is fine. It didn't detract too much, but I do think that I prefer the original Strangers clothing, but I like the new masks. I thought they had a lot of cool scenes. I thought they had cool stalking scenes. One of my favorite moments was when the pinup girl... One of my favorite moments for the Strangers was when the pinup girl had the gun in her face and she's sitting there screaming, going crazy, and blah, 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 blah. That was really nuts because you see how fucking crazy they are. It's not like we really needed that explained to us, but I mean, it's nice to see just an extra layer of how crazy they are. But other than that, I just can't really think of anything that is so different about this movie. Unlike part 2, we focus way more on Pinup Girl, the doll-faced chick. She takes way more of a backseat in this movie, which was a little strange to me. Also, we know that the Pinup Girl and the Man in the Mask are in some sort of romantic relationship, I guess, which isn't super weird, but it's different than I think the first 2, where I always got the feeling that the doll face and the Man in the Mask were in a relationship, so now it's flipped. So again, another reason why I think these are different strangers. But other than the strangers themselves, I don't have too many more positives for this movie. Every single thing that happened never had a consequence. When they shot that guy in the face, the landlord or the guy coming to fix the fridge or whatever, when they shot that guy in the face, they're in the front of the house or the back of the house on the porch, where 10 feet away from them on the other side of the wall, the strangers are right there. You just blasted a shotgun, somebody just fell down the front porch steps, and then you guys are gonna sit here and sob and cry and have a whole meaningful conversation? I'm sorry, I don't give a fuck if I just shot and killed somebody on accident. Whoops. Whoops. Wrong place, wrong time, my guy. I thought you were the fucking stranger. I thought you were the guy in the mask. You should have announced yourself. I'm taking the keys and I'm going. Which, again, why do they take so long to realize that, oh yeah, this guy drove here. His car is right there. We're looking at his car. His keys are right there. Let's pick up the keys and get in the car and escape. But no, they sit there and they cry, and they cry, and they cry, and they cry. And then they pick up the keys, and then they try to escape, and then they get in, the strangers trap them in the car and crash their car. So now they can't escape anymore. Now they can't escape. There was just a lot of conveniences, like I said earlier, to make things happen. Like, oh, we can't have them escape yet. So they're going to wait as long as they possibly can to pick up those keys, and then once they finally get into the car, then we're going to have the strangers attack them. I think what would have been much better is if they had immediately picked up those keys, immediately started trying to get out of there. Maybe they even got like a portion of the way down the road and they got crashed off of it. That would have been so much more effective because you would have been having your characters make smart decisions. What the fuck happened to all of the smart decisions in this movie? Why are these characters some of the dumbest characters that I have ever had in movie experience ever? Ever! This is a crazy rant. I was really hoping that I enjoyed this movie. I went into this not with super high hopes, but I was at least hoping to have fun with it like I did Strangers Chapter 2, which the more I thought about it, the more I liked that movie. And the more I think about this one, the more I absolutely fucking hate it. Which is sad. Which is really sad that this is what's going to be kicking off a new trilogy. I just really, they better have some great confidence in this trilogy to have already filmed all 3. And I'll give them credit, you know, I think they shot this movie in like 54 days, something like that. Not just this one. Chapters 1, 2, and 3, they shot in 54 days. So I give them credit where credit is due. That's a lot of work to get done in that short amount of time. But man, is the quality hurting. And if this is the quality that we have to expect for chapters 2 and 3, yikes, this might be one of the worst trilogies and executive movie decisions that a studio has ever made, for horror films at least. And then just another stupid decision. When Ryan finally gets out of the truck, because he also gets stuck in there, kind of like the dad from Prey at Night. And the guy, he finally gets out of the truck, to which the stranger's truck is right there, empty, running, keys still in it, and he fucking walks by it. He hobbles with his injured leg into the woods to try to find his girlfriend. Dude, take the car. Take the truck, so that you are in a confined space. You're safer than you would be hobbling through the forest, and you would find your girlfriend quicker. You would just so many things. And again, these characters just make so many stupid decisions that it's unforgivable and it's inexcusable. In parts 1 and 2, they never made nearly as many dumb decisions as they do in this movie. In chapters 2, there was one moment where I was like, that was absolutely a dumb decision. But they made it a part of his character. That's the thing, is it was a dumb decision, but they established it as part of his character, so I can kind of sort of forgive it. In this one, they're trying to at least make Maya seem super smart, and clearly they must think that she's super smart, considering she's the lead of the next 2 movies, but she's making every fucking stupid decision. The only smart decision that she makes is burying herself in the woods. And then she gets herself caught trying to call the police, and man, it is hard to excuse some of the behaviors that they have going on in this movie. And there was just a few cringy moments throughout the movie. The cringiest one for me was when the boyfriend, you know, left before the whole reefer madness moment. The boyfriend, like, left the house, and he, like, stopped by the car, and the guy was like, I thought you was a thief. And it's like, okay. Like, there was just a few stupid moments in this movie that I just didn't really enjoy, which is so upsetting. Because I enjoy those first 2 so much. They're a nice little double feature. And this is definitely the weakest of the 3. This is my least favorite. 100,000%. I'm hoping that it stays my least favorite of the franchise when these next 2 come out. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Pretty stupid to even make this movie. They honestly could have just made a direct sequel to the original movie, and I would have been fine with that, but I would have hated whatever explanation they gave for them. So I guess the reboot remake option was the best for if they wanted to explain the motivations. However, you guys just made a less scary, less tense, less intimidating, less dark, less atmospheric movie than the original. You just sucked the fucking life out of it, and then gave me characters that I'm not rooting for. And then the strangers, they don't even fucking kill her at the end. You're telling me they stabbed this guy once and this chick once, and then they're done? They're just done? After we saw them stick an axe in someone's head at the very beginning? After we saw them obliterate people's faces and Pray at Night? They're just a simple stab, and then they just leave her there to bleed out because the police are coming? They don't give a fuck about the police. We know that from part 2. They don't care that the police are coming. And they also turned the strangers, like, into ghosts. Like, they were getting shot with shotguns, and they would just disappear, like, literally poof out of frame, and they would teleport and show up places. It was just weird. Like, why are they getting mystical powers? Why is there, like, this weird culty, pamphlet-y thing that's coming up? Like, I really hope that we're not going in some sort of the Curse of Michael Myers direction. I really hope not. I think I'm going to wrap it up here. This is just a long-winded rant. I think you get the gist of how I feel. There was a few cool shots in there, like the I think it's the doll face dragging Maya through the forest. Any of the strangers in the woods, they were cool shots. The strangers lurking around the house, playing piano, doing weird stuff, those were all cool. Anything with the strangers looked visually cool and was cool. Like I said earlier, the scene in the ditch and the scene in the crawl space were the highlights of the movie for me, and really the only departures from the original movie. It was the only new thing offered to us, only thing that I could latch onto. There's a severe lack of tension. The scares are sucked out. The atmosphere is sucked out. And yeah, I'm still excited for chapters 2 and 3, but man, am I much less sure that they're going to be good. I'd give it 1.5 stars out of 5. My friend Claire went to go see this with me. She had fun. We watched the first 2 before we went to see it. Her favorite's part 2. We had fun while watching it. It was okay. Nice little generic popcorn flick. Nothing special. Oh, a pretty weak start to a new trilogy. It really could have done a lot more. It could have been way more unique. It could have attempted to do something a little different with the premise, and it just didn't. It just did beat for beat for beat for beat for beat what the original one did in a less effective way. So I would say wait to stream it. I wouldn't go to theaters. The only reason I would say go to theaters is because I want to see parts 2 and 3. But I don't really mind if that's in theaters or on streaming. So yeah, if you guys like this video, please like, comment, or subscribe. I would really appreciate it if you guys shared it around. This is a pretty newer channel. I'm just getting back into the swing of things. So yeah, sorry that this was a disappointing review. I'm sorry it was a disappointing movie. Stay tuned for the next one, guys. I have no clue what I'm going to review next or react to next, but I'll be working on whatever. So here's to looking forward to The Strangers Chapter 2, and you guys have a good one. Peace.